Hi, thank you for joining me today, and today's video is for day 11 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life. And today I'm documenting some photos from our trip to Boston back in 2015. You will have seen plenty about this if you've been following me for a while. These photos are of the cliff walk that we took in Newport, and I'm using Vicki Boutin Fernwood to document this. So the sketch, as you can see in the top right hand corner, calls for 3 photos, one slightly larger as the main focus of the layout, and then 2 slightly smaller. It has a title and it has these sketchy lines around the page, so I've more or less followed exactly as it is. I've chosen my title as snapshots because that's what it is really. They aren't particularly amazing photos, but they are ones that I wanted to keep in our album. So I've just gone with the puffy sticker title, snapshots, and added some bits and pieces around that were on the sticker sheet. In actual fact, I do get rid of those later on because the colours weren't right when I finished the layout, but you need to try these things, don't you? So now, as you can see, I'm just pulling papers from the 6x8 paper pad and building my mats underneath the 3 photos. I'm just going to grab my ruler so that I can tell you the measurements of the photos. So that top photo is 3x4 and the other 2 are 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And these are all actually 4x6 photos that I've just trimmed down so that they fit on my layout. As I've mentioned in a previous video, I'm trying desperately to use a lot of the photos that I've had printed rather than just printing out new ones for fun. I really need to use these photos that I've got in my stash because they're taking up room besides anything else. So just building up these layers, as I say, pulling out the 6x8 paper pad and distressing them as I go along. So this card paper is brilliant for this sort of thing because you get different looks. You can see this card that I've pulled out now, I'm focusing on the coloured part of it to add a bit of colour behind that photo. That's the middle photo, if you like. Going down diagonally, this one will be in the middle. And then later on you'll see I use the same card, but I focus on the frame around it, which is just an off-white, which works nicely against the background because obviously I'm using white cardstock for my background per usual. So focusing on this top photo now and using similar colours, pulling out a similar colour palette. The photos really are quite dark. I think that's from the photo processing because when I look at them on my camera they certainly weren't as dark as this. It was a pretty grey day when we did this walk, but not as grey as it's looking in these photos. I think that's why I prefer to print at home now because you do have the option to brighten things up if it's not quite right, but when you've had 50 printed or 100 printed and they're not right, it's frustrating. So as you can see, just pulling out scraps, strips, anything that I think will go nicely with these photos and adding them to the layers to create that mat. I felt that piece wasn't quite straight. I think I must have cut it a bit wonky, so just trim that and then re-distress the edge with my Tim Holtz Distress Edger. So as you can see, going through the paper pad and another little card. This is a 6x8, so they must be 3x4 cards. And I love that green, so I think that'll work really nicely as a mat behind this main photo. So just adding that. Nearly done with this mat now. Because it's the main photo, it definitely gets priority and has a little bit more matting than the other 2. And just trying to use any of the scraps that I've got left over really. So this little piece gets added on as well, because it's just adding another colour into those layers. Just getting that distressed, and then I think that's pretty much it for this one. We'll see. I did this a couple of days ago and I've not had a chance to voice over, so... Oh yes, that's it. I'm using this piece, and what I want to do is save that camera to use as an ephemera piece. So you'll see, I'm going to cut the camera out of the middle of the paper, just roughly. I can fussy cut that later on, and then I'm going to stick the frame down, and then once I've stuck it down I realise that actually I'm only using 2 sides of the frame. So although I put glue over all 4 sides, the other 2 pieces do get used elsewhere. It just seems so wasteful not to. So I get this stuck down, as I say. And when I flip it over, realise that those two bits just aren't doing anything on the back of the paper. So I pull them out to add to this other photo. And because that little piece is being hidden behind the photo, I tear that off and add that to the other side. It's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. But I just hate having pieces hanging out on the back of the photo when they don't need to. So just getting that stuck down. Again, distressing as I go. I didn't like this corner. I felt it was a little bit bare, so I just wanted to add a tiny bit of the yellow and bring that down into that bottom layer there. And I think finally that's just about it for this mat. So working out the positioning. Just checking that I'm happy with everything. I think I'd forgotten to distress that piece, so making sure it's all nicely distressed. No straight edges here. Well, they are straight, but I want them distressed. And now I'm going to go through my labels. These are pre-stamped labels from the LE Studio stamp, label stamp. The yellow ones are done in fossilised amber. And it's just bringing that yellow in. And then this is Ancient Mariner, is that what it's called? Uncharted Mariner. And I really like those two colours with this collection, the Fernwood collection from Vicki Boutin. And then that grey one is the new Smoke, Lost Shadow. I keep calling it Smoke. Lost Shadow, I must remember that. So just adhering those down. I want to create all the mats, and if you've watched me before, you'll know that I do this. I create all the mats around the photo, and then I'll add my mixed media in afterwards. This just gives me an indication of exactly where the mats are going to sit and where all the embellishments are going to sit, so that I don't just go ahead and cover up my mixed media, which I do a lot of anyway. But this just, it makes sure that I'm bringing the mixed media out far enough so that it's not all completely covered, which I have done in the past. So that top mat sorted, and now just working on these bottom ones. And here's that paper I was talking about, where this time around I've used the white as the frame, where last time I used the red rose as the frame, as the border around the photo. So just trimming off this left-hand edge because it's going to be overlapping the photo. So I felt I didn't need such a big border there. So using my 6x 25mm foam pads to adhere this all together, and then I'll be able to pop them down on top of the mixed media once that's done. Just checking that I'm happy. I can't remember if I put them on. Yes, I did just put it on that one photo just to raise it up above the other photo because there's so many mats on it. It was quite high, that bottom photo, so I needed some foam pad just to balance it out. And then I've added a tiny bit of wet glue to glue the two photos together, so I've got that all ready to go. So I wanted to add a tag hanging down from underneath the main photo. I just felt that the gap there was a little bit too much, so I thought a tag would look really nice dangling down underneath that. So just using my hole punch to punch that hole. Again, distress the edges. And then just get that into position. I'm messing about, deciding whether to go left or right, but I do get there in the end. And you can see I've cut off the excess because I don't want to waste the bit of paper at the bottom. I'll be able to use that for something else. So just making sure it's all stuck down. Adding my wax twine. We sell this at Hey Little Magpie if you're interested. And this is just a little tassel that I've got in my stash that I thought would look cute dangling from the bottom. So finally onto the mixed media, so bringing in my pencil to draw a pencil line just underneath the edges of all the photo mats so that I can see roughly where I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to use, you can see I've pulled it out there, Shimmer's Inklings paint in Sage It Isn't So, because I think this green will go really nicely with this collection. And I'm also going to pull in a stencil to push it through. This is a Tim Holtz stencil. I know that it won't be defined because I'm putting so much liquid through it, but you do still get a little bit of the texture from the stencil, and you'll see at the end I am really pleased how this turned out. It's something that I'll definitely try again, using a wet medium through a stencil. You just have to be a little bit careful when you reposition the stencil that there might be some paint underneath, so you could make a mess if you're not careful. But just dab it up with a paper towel. I had a paper towel, you can see on the right hand side, that I just wipe the underneath of the stencil each time if I need to when I move it. You can see there, just quickly giving it a wipe. So now that section's done, I shall move on to the bottom section. And I'm not bringing the mixed media out too far, just enough to give a little halo around the photos. But yeah, I do absolutely love this effect, and it's certainly something that I shall try again. And you can see some of the water really is pooling there. I'm just pulling a little bit up with my brush so that you won't get the definition of the stencil there, but you do in other parts. It's just wonderful how it works out. So adding some splatters now that all that stenciling's done, and then I can leave it to dry. And those splatters just connect the two groups of photos, if you like, and I'm just pushing those blobs of paint out a little bit to make larger pools. So now that's dry, I can come in and start embellishing. And we've got a lot of the embellishing done with all the layers and the labels and things, so just dabbing up the little bits of excess water there, and then I shall come in and get this stuck down. I'm using my double-sided tape because the paper's still a tiny bit damp. I thought that might be best to get it stuck down. And of course I've got the foam pads on the other piece, which will hold it in place. And I can use my pencil marks as a guideline of where this is going to go, which is great. So that's one done, and now on to the other, again with the double-sided tape. Just look at that mixed media. Honestly, I'm so happy with it. And like I say, I'll definitely give this another go. It's the first time I've tried that, and I was very impressed. Watch next time now, it'll be a disaster. First time lucky, maybe. So going through the sticker book from Fernwood, I love this sticker book. I use it so much, and there's still loads left. It's all stuff that I enjoy using. I think that Vicki Boutin is definitely in my wheelhouse. She creates things that I would want to put on my layout, which is lovely. So just going around adding what I can. I like that little bulldog clip at the top. And this little tab that says details. And now I'm going to come in with my journaling, and this is where it shows on the sketch, so it was nice to add that there. Just saying about our day and what it was like. So now coming in with that camera that I fussy cut earlier on. I finished cutting it whilst the paint was drying, and one of the JD3DPrint wood cameras, and just layering those two up together. And you can see with the wax twine, I've just twisted it up and around the side of that tag. And this Flair badge says "This happened," and again it's one from Hey Little Magpie. The link will be in the description box down below if you're interested. So just going around with more stickers, just embellishing where I can. I love that dragonfly, and because it's an outdoors situation, it works really nicely. This flag says "Right Now." I do love those banner flags on the corners of photos. And then this word strip says "Take your camera," and the one that's underneath the Flair badge says "Do the things." And then this one says "Great." And then just coming in with some of the gold pieces. I put them up at the top first here, but I'm not happy with them, so I do move them in a minute. And that's the layout almost done. So thank you very much for joining me. Please do check the description box down below to see everybody else who's joining in on this hop. And thank you so much, Natalie Turcott Cloudsdale, who created this sketch today. It was really open for interpretation. I followed it pretty closely, but I did enjoy creating this and also adding 3 photos to my layout. It's another 3 from that trip used up, which is nice. So as I mentioned, here I am just fiddling about with that title. I wasn't happy with the colours that I put at the top there, so I removed those puffy stickers and just nudged up the letters a little bit more. So that's it. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.